Hey there and welcome to a Dave Does video, and today we're doing part 2 of Are You a Band If You Don't Write Your Own Music? Now, I wasn't ever planning on doing a part 2, but some of the comments people have sent me about this video were really interested in it, and I was responding to people in the comments and stuff like that. I thought it would be really good to actually look at people's comments and kind of discuss them. There have been real kind of two sides of the story, and I just thought it was really interesting to see where people's heads went with it. These are all public posts. None of these have been kind of covered or been closed off or deleted or anything like that. So if you put your post on here, you were willing to discuss it. So here we go. So first comment I've got up here is, I agree they're on the same level as Iron Bunny. It's a band of Iron Bunny I have seen. I would definitely put. I think they're referring to the fact that I referred to Baby Metal as one of the kind of key talking points on this one. To be honest, I put Baby Metal better than Iron Bunny. I checked out Iron Bunny, wasn't a big fan, but as far as the context of the songwriting, yes, they kind of in that same thing. They are merely performers. Merely performers. I don't think I'd put them as merely performers, because I had a long think about this with something like with the singers from Baby Metal. They've got so much choreography that they have to learn. It's not like they just go out and sing a song. They've got to remember all their cues, etc. And so there's a hell of a lot there. Metal bands don't generally have to remember their choreography. They just go out and let it go however they want to. So there's a whole different sort of learning aspect of what they've got to do when they're performing and they're singing, etc. So they're not merely performers. They are performers. They're doing a great show. And I said that in my video. I am a fan, but again, I should really clarify it. So the fan is short for fanatic. I'm not a fanatic. There are a lot of people that are fanatics about a band. Fanatical means that you're a devout to something beyond reason. So reason doesn't come into it. You can't be reasoned with if you're fanatical. And that's where we get some issues in music. I'm not fanatical about any band, but I still do use the terminology I'm a fan. I'm very supportive of a band. And there are only a few of those, but generally I can see reason to everything. So I do tend to take the two words fanatic and fan separately, but someone did point this out to me a while ago when I said that fan is just short for fanatic. So if you call yourself a fan, you are a fanatic. I do use them in two different term sense, but I do understand why they would say that. So this comment continues: if you want a real band made Nemophilia, Nemophila, Graphic Spin, Dollbox are the real deal. Quality of songs is questionable on some of those. Dollbox, they're okay. They're not brilliant songs. They're kind of fairly generic. The other three, though, yes, are very good. Interestingly, Nemophila started out predominantly doing covers. We did a whole thing about covers bands and bands that need to move away from covers. So Liliac was a band we talked about. Bands like The Warning started out doing some covers and stuff, but they obviously moved away and no longer do them. And I think Nemophila have done that now. And I really like their originals and their blend of songwriting. Bandmade can be hit and miss for me. I've got some amazing songs I really do enjoy. Interestingly enough, so I do have. Do I have all of Bandmade's albums? I'm not sure. And I'm not sure if I've got all of Baby Metal's albums. I do have. I have albums, several albums from Bandmade. Baby Metal, I think I've got two. I have to check. I need to look at that. But yeah, interesting from there. So yeah, I think just calling someone performers is questionable there. Okay, so the next comment came in and goes, this discussion reminds me of the war between Toby Keith and a group of 3 female CW performers. Country and Western performers. After Toby was attacked by them, Toby replied, "Oh well, at least I write my own music." This further infuriated the group. I think the female group was called Chixie Dixies, or say the Dixie Chicks, I think is what they were talking about. And that's just, yeah, I mean, with this one, Dixie Chicks did write I'm sure they wrote a lot of their own songs with Dixie Chicks, but That's different because I'm not actually in a war of words with a band or slagging off a band or anything like that. It was just a question, and maybe I should clarify why I started this conversation in the first place. And that's because of Fanatics, probably, and it actually annoyed me. Um, you see these bands out there that all put in the work, and as I said, Baby Metal have done a lot of work in the sense of they focus on their performance. The songwriting is done by someone else, and I'll come to a point about songwriters in a second, actually. But I'm just so sick and tired of people going, "These are the best band in the world. They are better than any other band out there." Blah blah blah, and then seeing people because of popularity, their polls will get up and they get that recognition, and it was just kind of bugging me. It was just something that just little earworm that kind of irritated me. So what it's by giving that recognition to them, it's what all those other bands that have gone out there and done that hard work and doing the graft, are they lesser bands? And I know it's selfish for me to say that, because then if Baby Metal weren't getting the recognition, would you go, well, surely they deserve that recognition as well? So it's an odd one, but yeah, but Keith. So who was that? So Toby Keith and Dixie Chicks argument. Okay. What else have we got? I'm only going to do the main comments rather than there's so many follow-up comments. God, there's some people going about Man-Made. There we go. There's one. Okay, so this is from Rev Stickback. As a Band-Maid fan, I do recall being disappointed to find songs from their earlier years weren't written by them. It kind of starts with some of these bands died, but they did write a lot of their later ones. It does make a band seem more like a product than a genuine label. That's something we have talked about on the ADK channel about the idol concept of putting bands together, and every time there's sort of a new band gets thrown at us to check out from within the Asian market, we sort of get this idea of this feels, especially within specifically Japan, it's like here's another group that's been brought together and told this is what you're going to do, and it seems a little odd for us, because the chemistry, where's the chemistry of the writing? And of course they're not doing the writing, they get someone else in it. What else is, obviously they have been writing their own songs for a long time, and they always played their own instruments, and in truth my liking of a song doesn't come down to who wrote it. No, that is true. I like a lot of songs that aren't written by the group. So it was just, and again, that's something that I think people sort of said, if I say something, are you truly a band? If I don't think you're truly a band, does that mean I don't like it? Not at all. It's just the terminology of, is a band something where it's a group of people that banded together to write music, and is the writing part integral to being in a band, or can you just be a musician in that group? Which did make me think, because in a lot of bands, you may get only one person who does a lot of the writing in the band. So is it really a band? So for a lot of the time, so a band like Machine Head, Rob Flynn wrote most of the music in a lot of cases. So if he's writing a lot of the music and stuff like that, is he a one-man band, and is he Machine Head and the rest of the guys are just supporting actors? Now, I always sort of say that you do your songwriting credit, so as long as if someone brings a load of riffs in there, and someone gives me, like in Telescribe, someone will gives me an idea of riffs, they just give me a click track sometimes with the riff. They won't give me the drum pattern, so I will then write my drum pattern and we might arrange it slightly differently. Vocals will then get written over the top with the vocal melody, guitar melodies and guitar solos, and the bass line will get separately written. So everyone has their writing input, although one person may have written the bulk of the riffs. So at that point it still is a band because everyone's written it. But if someone comes in and goes, here's the drum pattern, here's the vocals, here's the melody, then it's no longer a band at that point. Then you're just supporting musicians. Okay, who else we've got? Reactomat, great name. To be honest, I don't care a lot. I want to listen to amazing music, and a group or act or whatever you want to call them, like Baby Metal, absolutely deliver that for me. Yep, that's a fair point. Someone else might have written the song, but it was written exactly for them and wouldn't be for the same without them performing it. That is a good point. That is a good point. So if it has those people in mind, it was specifically that that same person wouldn't have written that song for someone else. Like with a lot of pop songs, you'll get a songwriter will write the song and then it'll get banded around multiple artists until the right one kind of says yes to it. I think I have more of an issue with cover songs because in that case it's actually a song performed by a band that was actually written for another band in mind. Can work great too, of course, but can also completely change the song. So I'm not a fan of bands that go out and just do covers. If you're just purely cover, I like established bands who like to do a cover from time to time, but I feel that you almost need to get your covers out of the way before you kind of get known. Throw in something maybe on a live set when you're first sort of starting out, and make it your own. That's the important part, is making your cover your own. Don't just play it the same way that the original artist did it. Baby Metal for me is an idol group adding great musician supporters as a band. How many rock metal bands that write their own music like Baby Metal or Asterism? I actually don't know Asterism. All every band needs out there is a good songwriter in their membership. So yeah, and I think that goes back to the point. So you need someone in the band who is your key chief songwriter. Now, if you have multiple people in the band that are songwriters, that does help. And then you've got people adding ideas, being creative. Otherwise, it's a very one-dimensional band in the songwriting point of view. I talked about Aerosmith in the first video. So Aerosmith, again, multiple writers in the band. All the guys write songs towards or produce riffs. Vocal melodies, etc., and you can clearly hear within certain songs, if you start going through their catalogue and you look at the songwriting, creativity, and the list of who wrote those songs, we can kind of get to see their styles. But as long as you have one strong songwriter in the band, you're generally okay. And that does go back to the idea of the question of how much of the song did they write. Okay, who do we have here? Rafiq. If you look at Baby Metal being the three girls, no, they're definitely not a band. Baby Metal is a performance project run by a large team, and the product of that team's effort is something closely representing a metal band concert. The girls are the front and the face of the project. Nothing more, nothing less. Oh, I don't know about that. I would definitely... Okay, I'm going to let you finish your comment there. Having said that, I love almost everything about Baby Metal. The songwriting, the positive lyrics, the level of performanship on stage. I could go on. In most musical genres, the idea of that a musician should only play his or her own music is totally absurd. Only rock and metal seems to be obsessed with this, but it isn't. It isn't even about being authentic. When Johnny Cash covered Nine Inch Nails, everyone keeps bringing up Johnny Cash. The result was undeniably one of the most authentic and confessional performance music has ever witnessed. I love that video, by the way. Even though he did not write the song himself and it wasn't written especially for him. Again, we talk about covers being taking your own twist on it. And yeah, Johnny Cash absolutely nailed Hurt. Beethoven's music is still performed by people that did not write the music. And they do it just because the music is good in the same way. Yeah, someone else has brought up classical music before, and I'll talk about that again in a second. Let me finish this. I hope and believe that people will still perform Nothing Else Matters long after the members of Metallica is dead and gone. So I don't... Maybe I came across this wrong. So I don't have a problem with people playing other music. It's talk about whether they're a band. So people playing Beethoven's music, I don't look at an orchestral performance as a band. I look at it as a orchestra, which is a group of talented musicians playing classical music. That's not, I don't go, yeah, this is the Philharmonics, group number 2718B. I'm going to go put the poster on my wall, and I'm just, it's the orchestral idea that people, because it's Beethoven and because when Beethoven died you shouldn't play their music. I don't get why people kept bringing this one up, the old thing, because that seems a bit of a ludicrous comparison to compare composers of classical music. We're talking more about current bands where they're not writing their own music. They're getting people come out from outside it who write their music for them. Again, I would call it a group. more than I would call them a band. So I would class Baby Metal as a group, because it's a collective group of people that are performing music, rather than a band who are a unit that work together to create that piece, if you like. Yeah, I mean, people will continue to always play other people's songs, and we see it all the time. But again, I think that's where you start to move into tribute band territory if they become completely focused. And if they just all they do is play other different people's songs, then they're just purely a covers band. And there's always going to be a benefit for those, especially with artists that are no longer with, or when ticket prices for concerts like Metallica are so astronomical, you'll be better to go see something like Mortalica, a UK tribute Metallica band. Okay, who do we have? Maximum Houghton. Okay, yes, you've given us a few on here before. I've always looked at them as a group. A band, I think, of someone that plays their instruments, yet have that. Yes, they have the Cami band, but as it keeps getting pointed out by the management, they are not part of Baby Metal. Now, for the subject of not writing your own songs, I know they did write at least one, which was on the first album, and it's believed that Sue had a lot of input on the last album. I have read that as well. As for writing their own songs, it never did Elvis any harm. Elvis. Okay, this gets brought up a lot on this one. Everyone went on about Elvis. I knew Elvis didn't write a lot of his. He was one of the more well known. Here's my thought on Elvis. He's a pretty mediocre singer. And I know people go, oh, you can't say that, he's the king. Well, yeah, he was the king at the time, but that music has evolved, and this is the thing. I think, to be honest, music may have evolved too far, personally. But if you went back there, yes, he was, and he was very important in the world of rock and roll. That breakthrough from it being stuffy guys in kind of zoot suits playing kind of the rock and roll, he made it raunchier, he made it more out there, he was more a performer at that point. But if you were to take Elvis now, with his voice and stuff like that, and you put him on something like a Britain's Got Talent, I don't think he'd even get past the judges panel. And that's an honest, I think if you listen to a lot of like Elvis's singing style, it's karaoke style singing. But he was a great performer, and for his time, yeah, he was the king. But I don't think he's a very good example to people keep using. Personally, I just don't see it. He was a bad actor as well when he did his films. Yeah, so can we just leave the Elvis thing? It never did him any harm at the time, but that work we are talking about a long time ago. Oh, I like this one. So, Tom Russell. Okay, this was a total setup from the moment you opened your mouth to trash on Baby Metal. Did I trash on Baby Metal? Okay. The only valid point you might have is tribute bands. Well, I have every point could be valid. It's just which opinion you take. So your point could be valid. I could say you have no point. No, your comment has no validation, but from your point of view, it does. So, and that's why we have these open discussions. I really don't understand why you metalheads. Are you a Baby Metal fan? Then you're a metalhead. There you go. I don't understand why you metalheads have to keep coming up with your own criteria that makes your band valid and shits on Baby Metal. Okay, I haven't shat on Baby Metal. Said they're a great group. Did say that. Baby Metal has brought more metal fans to the genre than any other band out there. So if Baby Metal has brought more metalheads or metal fans to the genre, or do you mean people to the metal genre from outside of the metal genre? I think is probably what you're talking about. So probably people, because the way that reads is that they've brought more metal fans to it, which I'd have to kind of call bullshit on, as if they're already metalheads, they're fans of other bands already. But and maybe in recent years they have, but if you look at bands like now, like Sleep Token, they have definitely brought a lot of people to metal. Whether you class Sleep Token as metal within the category, there's so many subgenres. First you say it's not metal, then they don't write the songs. Well, in all honesty, it's not classic metal of any sort of the genre. So if you were to go through the classic styles of metal, no. So like the old kind classic hard rock metal, Is it death metal? No. Is it thrash? No. Is it metalcore? No. Is it new metal? No. The key element you've got with baby metal is it's dance, which is almost kind of, it's like dance metal, and that's cool. It's its own genre, and I think I tried again. I did make that clear in the last video. Okay, so you say it's not metal, and then they don't write their own songs, which they don't. Then it will be that they have a backup band who absolutely shred, by the way. Yes, they do. They do. Of course, they have a backup. I did point out. So all you're doing is pointing out exactly what I said. That's great. I, for one, was never into metal. And baby metal got me started listening to the genre. Well, because you're not then listening to metal in its purest sense. I mean, there are so many genres of metal you need to explore, whether that's extreme stuff like Lorna Shore. I hate Lorna Shore stuff, but I do acknowledge its existence and what it's in there. Go listen to some Cathedral for some doom. Corrosion Conformity will give you some of your stoner grooves. You've got your Alice in Chains for your grunge, or personally, I would go down probably Soundgarden, probably more for me, or Temple of the Dog would be an interesting one there. Not a big Nirvana fan for that one. You've got your punk. You can go down to the early stuff like the Clash, which I personally like, or you could go to some of the more kind of crossover stuff like the Stranglers, which was a bit more weirder, kind of had more of a kind of rock pop elements to it. You've got your hair metal of everything from like Poison, Motley Crue. I mean, the problem is each of these are complete genres. Classic rock, Thunder, great band. Just check them out. So if you're saying that this got you into metal, it's just got you the toe in the door of metal. And as I said, this is more kind of dance metal from the majority I've had. There are really heavy stuff, especially on the early albums, but they've definitely moved in a completely different direction for me, and this is nice because I actually like each album to be different. I don't want to listen to 8 albums that all sound the same. For me, I like to see progression, which is why things like Papaya, I really enjoyed the song, but it's definitely not classic metal or any of the kind of standardized metal genres. It is more a commercial pop dance metal, and that's fine. It's just a terminology, but it still sits within the metal category, I would say. So yeah, baby metal got you started to listen to it, and then you moved on to Nemophila, which I really like as well, and Band-Maid, which have completely revitalized my interest in music again. Now, baby metal, Band-Maid is kind of more of I would cast them more of like a hard rock act than metal, and they're very, very good as well. So in closing, I really don't think it matters. Baby metal don't write their own music. If that were the case, 90% of classical symphonies would not be considered relevant. Again, with the classical symphony thing, we're not saying that someone, again, it's what I've not said in this, that if someone doesn't write their music, it's not relevant. That's not what we're saying in here. So again, getting tied up on, and this is someone who's fanatical or a fanatic of a band. Didn't look at the reasons or think about that. They've just gone on the attack back, or they've gone defensive of their band. So because I didn't attack baby metal, I just questioned whether they were a group or a band, and it's just it's semantics, it's terminology. Okay, someone said, just went straight down. Their answer to it, the question was, no, you're a musical act. I think that one's a little bit, I suppose you could. The problem is the word act sort of, if you go down and say you're a musical act, you're a musical who is acting, so you are acting like you're doing music. So that's why I wouldn't say, no, I don't really like the terminology of a musical act. I would call them a group, though. I think a group is probably a closer terminology of group of musicians or group of artists. Okay, Rehab. As someone who spent a decade writing music and performing in the 80s, I can tell you that writing music and performing are 2 different skill sets. Very true, yes. So I don't even remember reading this comment when it first came in, so this should be an interesting one. I have known many good musicians who are not good songwriters. I have known good songwriters that are not good performers. The music industry has always had stables of writers and stables of performers. Growing up watching Motown artists is a prime example. Almost none of their artists write their own music, yet nobody holds that against them. Rock music is definitely the genre that makes the part of makes it part of their criteria. Though many rock bands have had contributing writers, just go look up Desmond Child's song list. Everyone from Aerosmith to Bon Jovi and Rat. Anyone that has anyone in the 80s was playing songs written by him. I got into K-pop in 2011. At the time, there were no K-pop artists writing their own music. BTS. I'm not sure who BTS. I should know BTS. I don't know why my brain's gone completely blank. BTS was really the first K-pop group that had artists control their music. That does not make K-pop bad. In fact, it makes it exceptionally good. The performers got to concentrate on performing, and songwriters to concentrate on writing. It works really well. Yeah, I don't disagree with anything you've written there. I honestly don't. Needed a coffee after that one. Yeah, so I'm still racking my brain through BTS. I should know this, and it's I don't know, but yes, I would say yeah, I agree with everything you just said there. Okay, who do we have here? Kitty, I think you're speaking about several different things. Yes, I did speak about several different things. Some bands are just cover bands. Yep, they can be good and put their own spin on it. Something like Weird Al Yankovic. He's a cover artist, and yeah, he does. Whenever Aurora does a rare cover, it's amazingly unique. So there's that. This takes us to bands that on occasion will do covers. So some bands like Disturbed, yeah, did a cover of Sound of Silence, and everyone raved about it, although it wasn't as good as the original. Otherwise, Disturbed stuff is much better. And yeah, the whole idea of the cover, I don't mind bands doing the occasional cover song. When it becomes quite a large part of your song set, like Liliac, where they've got quite a lot of covers, it can then start to become a problem, because that's you become more well known for your covers than you do for your originals. And that's fine. In my case, with something like Liliac, I'm like, do you just be a covers band and focus on that and do it really well, or do you focus on the originals? Because it's a difficult one for a listener. Right, sorry, I lost where I was with your stuff here. Next up is band like Metal Baby, where they have their own writers, or probably Babe Metal. I'm guessing that you meant to say. That's original stuff. The writer is just another member of the band, though not one who plays. And I think that was interesting, because he does refer to himself as, his name's Meg, but he calls himself Meg Metal when he writes for Babe Metal. This is common. See Elton John. Yeah, I do. I think it's massively legitimate. I think it's either legitimate or it's not legitimate. In the case of this guy, yeah, it's legitimate. It's fine. I mean to say that in many bands, only one guy is the writer. Does that make the band illegitimate because the bass player writes the stuff? Not in the least. Unless they have absolutely no writing in the band, and all they do is they perform on stage. So literally, like, the bass player doesn't even he just turns up, does the rehearsal, goes home, has his sheet music. When you start seeing them playing in the sheet music, and I have seen bands who have had to hire people in for gigs, that's not a band then, is it? The band is the people that work and crafted the stuff, whether you had some involvement. And it may not be that you wrote a lot of the song. Maybe you were just given the riffs and you had to work out your part. So as a bass player, you don't, if they literally, the guitarist has to go, right, you're playing E, 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 D, C, D, C, G. And now when you play it like this, then you're not the band, because anyone can do your job. But if you listen to what the guitarist does, you go, okay, yeah, I can see what you're doing, and you write your bass line that fits the song and does your bit, then you are a part of that band, because you were involved in that writing, because you've written your part. As to Babe Metal, the band is a legitimate original band with their own original music, i.e. Kami Band. Producers saw this talented band and put them through with some graduates of the Japanese Talent Academy. Thus, we have a collaboration of three elements: serious musicians, producers, and vocalists. The set of three is the band. So what if the writers go off and what if they got brought new writers in? So is that like where you change band members? Because the writers may come in with completely different writing styles. It's a long comment. You really put your thought into this. Let's have a quick look here. So the formula out ought to be copied. In fact, Bandmade, my favorite Japanese band, was a band supported by a similar production company. They were not allowed to write their own songs in the first couple of albums, but since proved their chops for their best work over the past 7 years. So that's an interesting comment there. So they've proved themselves to have their best chops over the last few years when they're doing it themselves, because they're probably more passionate about it. So when you write your own stuff, you're more passionate than when you perform someone else's song, I would say. So there's a point there to be talked about. They've got massively talented level and enjoy work today by performing first and writing second. Now they are writing some of the best rock on the planet in 2024, and their chops are over the top. Fair play. Thus, the answer to the question is that writers can be part of a band without actually doing the instrumental work, just as a bassist can be a bassist without playing the drums or guitar. A writer's instrument is a vision, and that makes it a 5-piece band into a 6-piece band, so be it. I think that's true if the writer is purely for that band. If the writer writes for other people, it's whether there's that connection between the band and do they really vibe on it. Because you can write a song and you can play a song in a band and you cannot believe in it because it's been completely written by someone else, and you can perform it fine, but you don't truly believe in what you're talking about. You don't truly believe in what you're putting out there. But if you write a song, there's a connection. When someone goes, so what was that song about? You can either read off the list about what that song was written about, or you can tell it from the heart. And I think the telling it from the heart is more personal, and it's definitely got more power to it. So I agree with a lot of what you said there, but I still believe that do I think a writer is part of a band? Not unless they are purely for that band and they are that connected with them. If you've just got people that write for you and then write for other people and come in like once every year or something and write you a song and stuff like that, I don't still see them as a band. But I do see them as, yes, you can have it. Elvis Presley didn't write his songs and he didn't have a band either. And he wasn't that good either. So we can skip that one. The song has 2 parts, lyrics and music. Both are important. A band like The Warning that writes songs with insightful lyrics is definitely an original creator. Compared to a cover artist, creativity is hard to find nowadays, and they have close to 50 original songs. Also, we're looking at The Warning here. Over the past decade, including a concept album. In today's world of show over substance, many don't prioritise lyrics. It's all about the performance. Dylan and Cohen wouldn't have made it big today. And this is, again, we talk about bands historically that wouldn't make it because they potentially could write great lyrics, songwriters, but because they don't have the performance element, they wouldn't make it through in certain genres. But there are something like Lewis Capaldi can write some amazingly beautiful songs. Isn't what you call like a great performer on stage, but he's very emotional. He's fully connected to what he's doing. All that matters to them is the energy and instruments going at 100 kilometers per hour. We know you're not from the UK then if you're using kmph. Subtlety is almost dead. Less is more is a philosophy has been defenestrated. That's a hell of a new word for me. So is the intelligence of the classic rock era. I like classic rock. I just like simple riffs, simple grooves, with a great powerful story behind it. Thankfully, The Warning tick all the boxes. With profound societal commentary through deep metaphorical lyrics that have brought back the intellectualism of 60s, 70s and 80s. After a long time, here is a band of saying something substantial. Yeah, I agree with that, actually. Got nothing to challenge on that commentary. A lot of great bands have to earn freedom before they're allowed to write, just how the business is. Now, that's how the business is in Japan for the idol bands. From one side, I really want to do a whole episode on just idol bands and just try and get my head around it about just how they bring these people together, where they get them from, how do they approach the young girls that they put into these groups and stuff like that. But yeah, I think that's the bit that probably throws a lot of people out. Like they're plucking people out and they're going, you can do it and you can sing, and then we will write all this music. And it's that element of almost, it feels like it's that pop idol type group. It's the, like we had over here with the TV show Pop Idol, and the X Factors, and they put groups together and they write songs for them. Like they had One Direction over here, same thing. And I think that's because with the rock bands, metal bands and stuff, and even like pop artists, the independent like artists like Ed Sheeran and stuff, they had to go out there and they had to work and write songs, work out which ones were rubbish, didn't do well, got rid of them. There's that craft they've gone through to get there, and then someone comes in and puts these, we'll put you and you together and we'll write this song for you, bam, and we'll push you out there. Wow, you've gone really big. And I think there's a little bit of annoyance from bands, and maybe because I've done the band thing, still doing the band thing, but I did the whole put albums out and write songs, and I look back at some of those songs and go, they weren't that good. This one was a really good song, but that one wasn't very good, and yeah, it should never have been put on the album at the time. And that's because at the time we thought it was fine, but over years of listening to it, we go, yeah, actually our songwriting wasn't brilliant on that one. I think that's probably where it is. Okay. Oh, it's quite a few on this one. The King. King never wrote a song. Does that change who and what he was? The King. Yeah, he was called the King. Ozzy was God. Actually, no, he was never God. It was Lemmy was God. Ozzy was the Prince. So, Prince of Darkness. Would Stairway of Heaven be any different if it was written by someone other than Page of Plant? Yeah, it would. Because it wouldn't be Stairway to Heaven. Because it's what they wrote. Johnny Cash performing Her. Who wrote the song doesn't matter. It's how the artist makes their song their own. That's if it's a cover song. And if someone, when someone writes you a song, so that's someone performing someone else's cover, but if someone writes a song, they do give you kind of the bare bones in a lot of these, the songwriter's points of view. It depends on how much of the orchestration they've done, and if you are just performing it exactly how the writer wrote it, then it's not your own. Okay, who we got? Yes, you are a band. Writing your own music has naff all to do with being in a band. Absolutely naff all. Sorry, you're a dumbass. I'm not even going to continue to go down that one. Yeah, actually, in fairness, I am going to actually finish your comment on that one. But writing music does have something to be, unless you're listing yourself as a tribute band or a covers band. But I would say yes, writing music has quite a big thing, because otherwise all you do is play covers. If you do not write music, then you are not in a band. As I understand, the difference between a group and a band comes down strictly on whether you play instruments or just sing. Writing your own music doesn't even come into it. If you were to say a band is based on writing your own songs, then BTS is a band where they clearly are not. And I don't. I was about to say I don't think I put out specifically that point, but yeah, I did. I guess in the terminology, are you a band if you don't write your own music? But I never asked the question: are you a band if you write your own music? Because then, yes, if you would then say BTS would be a band because they write their own songs. But they have a backing instrumentation if they do that. I wonder how much of that they do write though. With Baby Metal, it's a bit less clear, as I believe the band is Cammy, so you could say Baby Metal was a group with a backing band. Okay. I'm still going down the grouping. I would automatically say no, but it's not that simple. I don't think anyone would argue that the Rolling Stones were not a band until they started writing their own music, and they were certainly more of a band than they are now. Than they are now. Yeah. So again, it's that element of being in a band where you don't write your own music. Once you start writing your own music, you truly gel as a band because you're in that creative process. You're no longer in just the performing element. And I think the creative process is really important about being in a band. Writing is not the defining aspect of being in a band. A band is any group of one or more people that performs with musical instruments, including samples, loops, and effects. There are lots of good bands that don't write their own music, and the further back you go in history, you'll find it was the norm for external writers, and that was mainly because the labels wanted to control. So they'd take on a good performer and they'd write for them. Babymetal is an idol group that uses a band for live shows. Babel do have writing credits for lyrics. If you look at the idol groups, you'll find lots of examples of the performers writing both lyrics and music. The same is true of some of the Western pop stars you try to dismiss. Yes, and so I put a couple up there. So who was it? Ariana Grande. Who was the other one? Beyonce, and I can't remember who else was the other one I put into the list. Was it Mariah Carey or something like that? And they do have some writing lyrics, but what they do have is a huge team of writers behind their songs. It's a well-known fact. They have a large group. They have some writing credit, but they do not write the bulk of their music. Personally, I don't take it away from them for being great performers. They are great performers. I'm just saying, we're talking about the writing. And that was more to refer to it as being quite the norm within pop culture. Personally, I find the idol group approach often produces far more interesting music than bands limited by the members. Now that is an interesting point. But ultimately it depends on the quality of the writers involved in the setup. Good music is music regardless of how it's produced. Now one thing I do think about with something like maybe Babymetal, if you have multiple songwriters on an album and the producer working on it, you can either get a very disjointed feel in an album or an album that feels like a compilation of songs, whereas a band will often go down the route of writing what they would say like almost a concept album, or the album naturally flows for a story because they think about it as a cohesive set of songs that are a period of time, rather than just here's a really cool song, let's put it out as a single. Because I'm wondering about with things like idols, do they think about them as singles or do they think about them as an album listening from track 1 to track 8 to track 10, whatever it might be? And I think for a writer, for an idol group or for a pop song, they are looking at it as a song rather than an album, a full part of an album. Okay, I think was that all of them? Yes, that was all of my comments today. So some really interesting ones in there. I thought it was really interesting that we had quite a few talking about obviously the orchestral and comments, because there were a lot of like sub ones that responded, because some of them went into a really long chain of comments. I only did the starting comments on those. Did we get any closer to finding it? No, not really. But I thought the ones that really kind of stood out for me were the ones where they asked the question of, if you don't write in the band, are you really in the band? I think most, having been in bands, having been one of the guys that will present a song, and it varies in style. So sometimes I'll present an entire song from start to finish and go, here's the track. Maybe not have lyrics on it. Sometimes I'll have lyrics on a song and I'll be, this is what I'm thinking, blah, blah, blah. People will learn the riffs and they are playing the whole song. Now in my head, I'll be like, then as a writing credit, that's purely mine because I wrote that song. Now, if someone then puts new lyrics and vocal melodies over it, then it's a shared credit. But if I put in 3 or 4 of the riffs, but I only send the riffs out, and then they change those riffs slightly, and then the bass player will put a completely new bass line, and there'll be a new solo put in and new vocals, and I'll put my drums on it, then it's a band credit. Because even though I put the original idea in there, we then worked it in a studio together to come up with what flows. And through each of the rehearsals, when we're practicing that song, we find out where the dynamics of the track work, and that's really important for me as well, is not having that finalized written track means that we actually have the time as a band to work out what feels right, so that when we're performing it, it comes across in the right way. And I don't know with a band like I'll keep referring to them as band or a group like Babymetal, how much of that is in rehearsal and how much of it is more like a stage show rehearsal. So does someone like Babymetal go into a rehearsal studio and jam on new songs? or does the Camry band go in there and is it already pre-recorded and they learn the song and then they just rehearse it, as in the sense they just play it through? Or do they actually go, let's try this, let's try that, how about on this song? I would be really interested in that element of the Bape Metal to understand, because if that is the case and the song kind of comes in a raw form and then they work it up in the rehearsal studio, that could switch my opinion on it, because then they are still working on it. But if it is like, here's the song, it's already been recorded and everything like that, now you need to it's recorded in like a demo version, we want you now to come in and sing over the top and here's the lyrics, and you sing it and then you go in and practice it for the tour and go off and do your choreography, then I would still put them as a group. But yeah, lots of detail on this one today. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. I'd love to know what you thought about some of these comments, and thank you very much for watching. Take care.